Hey team, today we're going to be looking at how we created this video and why fast is not always better.
Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside?
Yeah, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Well, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Yeah, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens. Yeah, your bones are the earth, and they sing with the mountains.
Well, your bones are the earth, and they sing with the mountains.
Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside?
Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside?
Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside? Inside, all of the world inside.
Now if you made it to this point in the video without closing off or skipping ahead, you're already one step ahead of the rest of them because you understand the point of content. Now that's a very vague question we need to pose ourselves, isn't it? What is the point? What is the point? Point. What does point even mean? What is the reason? What is the incentive? What is the drive? What is the motivation for why we create something? And I think that is one of those questions that we need to ask ourselves eventually. And there's a time for being spontaneous, but there's also a time to be methodical, to be meticulous, to be careful. But if we're dealing with clients that need something done correctly and they're putting their trust in us to create something that communicates their message, we owe it to them to be very careful with our decisions. Now I'm not saying that fast-paced videos aren't good. They're great, but what if your audience has a little more than 10 seconds? What if your brand doesn't rely on communicating a story in the shortest amount of time? Because what we know is that the best stories in life can't be rushed. And so today I want to cover the question, what is the point? In 4 simple steps. Step number 1, understanding the goal. If you haven't already watched, I really encourage you to check out a previous video I did on understanding client needs. That is often our first starting point, because the point is when we work professionally, we're not creating a video for ourselves. We're simply the steward of someone else's story. Understand what the client wants to get out of the video and go forth with strategy and creativity. So with this client, he is an incredible baker who operates in the heart of Wigram in Christchurch, New Zealand. If you guys are local, please go hit them up, you will not regret it. They make incredible pastries. But in this case, the client's goal was to create a video that showcased the incredible process behind the product. Fresh pastries don't just appear out of nowhere. They start at 3:30 in the morning. And with this baker, he gets up early. So now we understand the goal. We really need to dig deep and figure out how we're going to communicate the message at hand. Now if there's anything I know, it's that baking hundreds of different pastries every single morning needs to be done fast. Man, you're quick.
This is not quick, Sarah.
Man, I slow down your processes by like 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, we plan for it anyway.
That's why we just said, I don't want to plan for this.
Thanks, guys.
No, we like having it here.
That's not what you were saying about you yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait.
I wanna hear what I'm saying.
What? And sometimes we need to slow things down in order to capture people's attention. So that's the next point. Attention. If we were to define attention as fitting the most amount of information in the shortest period of time, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. That's why it's really important to understand how do we use the context of the story to capture people's attention. And the context of this story is the fact that we need to take time to appreciate every fold, every roll, every flutter of flour that spreads across the stainless steel workbench. These very subtle details can often be mislooked in real time. That's why I slowed down my footage down to 25% of its normal velocity. If I want to slow things down by 4 times, I'm going to have to shoot at 100 FPS and export my project settings at 25 frames a second. so we can bring the overall velocity down to 25% of real time, so we can keep the fluid movement of everything that happens. This leads me to talk about my third point, pacing. Now, based on the goal of the video and how you capture attention in the audience, your pacing is going to swing from either being very fast-paced and capturing a lot in a small amount of time, or extended beyond your comfort zone. Sometimes we get so used to editing videos that it becomes second nature as to when we splice the video, when we think that people are going to stop focusing. My challenge for you guys is to keep recording a little bit longer than you need to, and keep the video playing on your timeline a little bit longer than you think you should. Once you do that, you might find that you discover a new form of pacing. We do this because we want to let the audience's brain register what's happening on the screen before the next clip plays. Now, the final point that I want to talk about today doesn't necessarily have to be the final thing you think about when creating this video, and that is the music. As a clinical audiologist and a musician myself, I really take music seriously. It taps into our subconscious and makes us feel instead of just think. So finding this song really tied the video together, as I discovered that the point of this video was not just to show the pastries being made, but to really help the audience appreciate and understand what it means to be creative on the inside, as opposed to searching for inspiration on the outside. It's that playful juxtaposition of Will coming out onto the street and putting up his flag while we hear the hustle and bustle of the cars flying past, which makes the audience feel like there's lots happening. But this highway noise slowly subsides as we hear birds start to chirp even louder, in correspondence to the scene where we see the camera wrap around Will in a parallax movement. It's only once we see his face that we understand the motif of the song. Why would you look outside yourself when you have all of the world inside? Now, I think this resonates with more than just myself. As someone who does look for new hikes, new restaurants, new bars, new cafes, is that really adding value to our lives? And that's why this song is so special, because in a world of consumerism, we need to focus more on being producers of content as opposed to consumers of content. And this transitions perfectly to Will walking back into the kitchen, beginning his craft. No audience, no one to watch, just him alone with his creativity. Not because you want other people to see it, but just because you love it. And so these 4 points are in no chronological order. If anything, they need to be flexible and move around each other's objectives. Your pacing will be determined by the speed of the music. Your music will be determined by the goal of the video. The goal of the video might be influenced by the attention that we need to elicit, which is underpinned by the context of the content. So just to recap, the 4 key points of understanding what is the point: the goal, attention, pacing, and the music. If what I shared today was helpful in any way, please let me know in the comments below. If you like what you saw and want to see more, feel free to subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.